Let the dragon consume you! Enemy sighted. Stop the payload! Stop the payload! In 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
All right, the Birdwatchers are back at it for episode 3, stage 2, week 2. Ryan, how you doing today, buddy?
I'm doing good, man. I'm doing good. I'm tired. There's been a lot of matches this week that we kind of wanted to look at, like a lot of.
Oh yeah, especially some of these teams that were not looking great. Stage 1 starting to pick it up, man. Starting to pick up some steam, and they're fun to watch.
Yeah, definitely. Not as many sweeps this week compared to last.
I think we're losing a little bit of those. Yeah, so we're not seeing as many 4-0s for sure.
Yeah, we're getting some 3-1s, some 3-2s. I mean, the 4-0s are still there. Do you know, kind of just off the top, do you think we'll get to a point where we start seeing more 3-2s situations?
Yeah, I mean that's the idea, right? Those are awesome games to watch, but I don't know. I think there's always going to be a top tier and a middle tier, and then a tier that kind of just lingers at the bottom, right? So whenever we see a top tier team play one of these bottom tier teams, a win for them is probably pretty good, right? So if you see, say, the Gladiators play against London, and the Gladiators are stealing a game from them, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
So,
all right, well, let's hop into it. First match, or our first. What is it? The main match we chose was Seoul Dynasty versus Fuel, and I think we chose this based off of the back of seeing the Fuel play with the new setup, with AKM, with Effects back, with XQC back, and they kind of showed out, right? Yeah. And now they're actually playing a team that's going to kind of push them to the edge,
right.
And I mean the outcome was a little bit iffy. It was a case where at first they start off strong, but Seoul Dynasty, man, they have the players to kind of pull off certain things, and now you have Ryu Jaehong, my love triangle continues with Ryu Jaehong and Jonak, and they just put out an article where Jonak is talking about he started playing support to be like Ryu Jaehong. And it's just like, how am I supposed to choose between the two? Right?
That's kind of his hero, yeah. And
exactly.
Those two are your heroes. Yeah,
exactly.
That's awesome. Yeah, especially with Dallas coming off of 2 wins last week. Did you think that it would? It felt close a lot of the times, but obviously Dynasty did win 3-1. Yeah. Did you feel like it was a close matchup throughout the series?
It felt a little messy.
Yeah.
And I don't know if this is a case with people just coming back, them trying to get back into the groove, even though they have, AKM and a bunch of new people. But it's XQC feels like he's the shot caller now, right? And I wanted to ask you, like, where do you think Siegel fits in on this team now? Because I don't know how comfortable I am with XQC kind of leading the charge, because of his play style is very independent, and he does cool things, but it's not like who am I trying to think of? Who's the Winston for?
Maybe Muma from Houston.
Yeah, Muma. Thank you. My team, right? Like, I'm a fan now.
Right.
Which we're going to talk about how I pretty much cursed them. But like Muma is always sitting on his supports or trying to help out with the DPS. But it's with XQC, he tries to make plays himself, and I wonder if him shot calling and trying to do that is affecting the overall meshing of whatever strategy you're trying to pull off. Because Dallas Fuel always seems like they're all on the different pages.
Right.
And that kind of shows when they play higher tier teams.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely. 3 things. I think that, first of all, XQC openly admitted on a stream this week that he felt like he was diving these tanks or diving these back lines and getting no support from Mickey. We'll get into the fact that Mickey has not been as impressive as we thought. Yeah. Number 2, Siegel. I think he has said he's going to transition to something else. besides the DPS role, where you're going to see him more on a diva role, I think is where he's wanting to put himself. Where off tank, you can actually shot call on. Main tank is a little bit more difficult, and XG brought this up. He feels like it's difficult to shot call on the main tank role because you've got a lot going on. You're trying to focus on a lot of things, and he just is an emotionally driven character.
Yeah.
He finds that he cannot get things out, words out, directions out when he is under the pressure of losing, because he's emotionally, he's distraught. He's finding himself becoming silent when they are losing, and you have to have somebody. Even if you listen to these comms Muma is doing for Houston Outlaws, he is constantly talking, winning or losing. He's letting people know what to do. So I don't know.
You got to play it through, man.
Yeah.
So that makes sense. But that's a very mature statement, right? That's a very positive view on it, and a way to, because it's not about the mistakes you make, it's about what you do in the future to avoid them, right? Or avoid making them again. And that's what it sounds like they're doing. So that's actually good to hear.
Yeah.
Let's get into maps. I mean, so map 1, we have Hanamura, and the overall count here was Dynasty taking it 3-1 overall, taking Hanamura, Nepal, and Route 66. And then Fuel, taking Hollywood in the third map there.
Right.
But to start off, it was very, like you said, it was a good showing. It was very impressive.
Yeah, absolutely.
We see XQC in the lineup, like we said, starting. And it's on Hanamura and AKM, man. He had a play during the second point, which was just absurd. I'm kind of read what I have here, because in a minute, this is what happens. He kills Zumba with the remainder of his first ult. He finishes off Myro through a Winston ult, picks off Ryu Jaehong with a backline Helix rocket, then rockets Munchkin during his flank attempt to try to kill him on Tracer, and then pops his second ult to take out Zumba, and then rockets a Fleta. And
that's insane. Yeah.
Like in a minute. And it's crazy to watch it because it's almost like the perfect spectating view, because he's on the ledge above the entrance of the second point on Hanamura on attack. And you can pretty much see it all just play out. And everybody is going wild in the stadium or in the watching the match, because it's just very impressive. And we're going to go into it a little bit later, because later in the week, he doesn't perform so well.
Right.
But that kind of set the stage where I was like, okay, this is going to be a pretty close match, right?
Right.
But outside of that, somehow Dynasty ended up taking it, because Ryu Jaehong, he their supports are on another level, especially compared to Dallas Fuel. Harry Hook is not. He falls kind of in that same play style that Arc falls into for me, where I think Arc is good. But on NYXL, he doesn't really shine, in my opinion. And Harry Hook is one of those same situations where he's been trying to play some Ana lately, and it's not working out.
Right.
Like, he's a Mercy Lucio main. So it's one of those things where that I feel hurt him. How'd you feel about that situation? I know you don't play support, but that's usually where my eyes go. When I'm watching.
Oh, the support for Soul definitely opened up a possibility just to make picks, right?
Yeah.
So they definitely showed there. I will say that AKM felt very consistent and was getting the kills he needed. I just don't think the tanks were able to get the dive that they needed to on their supports. You can't leave Rujong open like this kind of thing, and XGC attempts one after another, just tries to get on these guys with no backup from Mickey. And I think him falling pretty early, and when we see later on in the series that he has a lot more deaths than Miro does.
Yes.
And that definitely equates to losses when you're just dying over and over without any backup.
Yeah, and there's a case on map 2 on Nepal where, I already have a more negative view of Mickey as far as his play style and how he's performing. And there's a play where he hooks a Diva Bomb behind a shield.
Or it's a Orisa shield.
Yeah, behind an Orisa shield, and kills himself, and that results in the team getting wiped off point that they had. So it's one of those things like, plays like that, I mean, you can't afford to make those small. I mean, those are big mistakes. Like,
absolutely.
Like, when's the last time you saw somebody hook a Diva Bomb in anything, like on ladder? Like, come on.
Yeah. It doesn't happen very often, and when you do, and you do it out of place, man, it really will mess up the team.
Yeah.
I will say that Mickey has come from a point where D.Va used to be a protector and would dive and protect a lot more than be offensive, where you had this long defense matrix and no missiles. So he is trying to convert over to more of a DPS D.Va role, and it doesn't look like he's as comfortable as a DPS D.Va compared to someone that just protected the team.
Yeah.
And I know he slots over to Roadhog every once in a while too, but it just doesn't seem like I hate to say it, he almost feels like the weak link of this new Dallas Fuel team. That being said, we'll see. It's just kind of strange. We did see 2 really big wins last week.
Yeah.
One being over Shanghai and the other being over the Gladiators. Not the highest tier teams, but they looked sharp. They looked like they were on point. Let's get into. I think we talked about map 1 to map 2. Nepal Dynasty just kind of took over the point, and like you said, we did see a big hook from Mickey onto a D.Va bomb that kind of turned the things around, where it looked like Dallas was in control and gonna take the map, but did get bombed, and Seoul was able to take the point.
The dangerous part with Nepal, especially against Seoul, is that you're dealing with Fletta's Pharah, and he usually plays, like, a majority of the time he's playing Pharah on that map, and it's ridiculous because his concussions are usually on point. He can usually at least get one person with it, the boobs. And then he plays the tower, right? He plays the tower, and then, all of a sudden you're getting ulted. You try to respond, and then he boops you because he forces you in a position where you have to be next to the ledge to have access to him, right? And that's just one person you have to worry about. So you compound that on top of the mistakes that Dallas Fuel is having, and it results in a loss, right? Then we move into map 3, which is Hollywood, which is where we see Fuel kind of step it up.
Yeah, and they did step it up. They looked like a sharp team here too. Yeah,
and one stat I want to point out is that pre-halftime, effects was 17 and 16 for kill deaths, right?
Which is not great.
That's not good.
Great.
That's not good. But in the second portion, so after halftime, he comes in and we see a performance where he's at like 2+ KDR, and that's a big telling, right? Because it looks a completely different team the second half, and if effects can play at a level that's expected, then with AKM he's still the new guy, AKM can then follow up on that and help out. So what do you think about the Hollywood performance?
I think Dallas did a great job just defending the second point. I think they do let them into Garage, but barely. AKM had a really good performance on Soldier and then turned around on offense and really was able to push it. And it's what's irritating going into map 4. AKM looked like he was really on fire and able to get the picks he needed, and him and XUC were holding alts to the perfect time.
Yeah.
Soul still had a D.Va mech up, and he was able still to get tac visors through those and get the picks that he needed. And then map 4, they decided to switch him out, which he looked like he was. If he goes into map 4, I think we get a 5th game out of Soul and Fuel.
Yeah.
Which is kind of irritating.
Yeah, and on Hollywood, it was pretty. It was kind of. I wonder if it was a test game because we're on map 3. They got the first 2, so it's one of those cases where they put Wikid in, or it was Wikid, I think.
Wikid, yeah.
Yeah, has a lot of E's in it. Wikid comes in. He's a Junkrat player, and he has a pretty impressive performance. Like he's getting double kills. Consistently at the beginning, but they do run a triple tank to start off, which is outside the norm for them. That's more of something you see out of Boston, right? Boston's known for their triple tank comp that they refuse to switch. Yeah. But that's something we can talk about later. Key comes in, performs well. Toby's in, instead of Guido here, so Ryu Jaehan can play that Zenyatta that they need. And then he can switch to on if he needs to, and then Toby usually handles the Lucio Mercy duties, similar to Harry Hook, right? So, but Toby is a well-known Lucio player.
Oh yeah.
So, even with those two, I felt like it was weird to watch because Soul wasn't playing poorly. It was just that for this match, Dallas Fuel stepped it up. So you had a game that it looked like it could go either way, and it just worked out into Fuel's favor. And you think, okay, well maybe they're going to turn it around here, right? And then we get to map 4.
Yeah, they're definitely poised to go into map 4 on a win, and they they definitely make a switch, and I don't hate them for switching AKM for Rascal. Rascal, obviously a proven player in the past, but when AKM is doing so well on map 3, why take him off? I mean, it kind of blows my mind, and it didn't feel like Dallas was ready or had practiced the Sombra comp, and obviously it's a Sombra comp on Route 66, very good for .1 defense. Yeah. He doesn't even get an EMP off before he's dead. He dies very early on, which pretty much stops the whole strat from going off, and Fuel or its Soul definitely capitalizes on this.
Yeah, and it's you hit the nail on the head. Like it is the value there, and this is on the coaches. At least I put the blame on the coaches because you make the call, right?
Right.
Do you play to the strategy, the strength of the strategy? Because if the strategy falls apart, you still have a whole map that Rascal has to play on. And not only did they do the swap, we had Munchkin come back in for Wakid, right?
Right.
Which kind of made me think that they used that third map. Or they knew they were in a position to win this out, and they wanted to give Wakid more stage time, more real gameplay. And I think that was part of it. And they put Munchkin back in, and Munchkin goes off. Right? He had 3 pulse bombs.
Kills.
Yeah, he's sticking. They make a joke that they're like, saying that XQC's Winston must be magnetic because since he came in, Munchkin has landed every stick on his Winston. And it's caused an issue because of his play style where he is being more aggressive and Mickey is not following up on that. So you essentially have a Winston jumping in, getting stuck immediately, trying to come back to the team, dying, and then Mickey having to switch to a main tank role, and it doesn't work out.
Right.
And then you also have XQC shot calling at that point. There's something deeper than the play. I think they've elevated their play to kind of meet that middle of the pack baseline they need to hit. But I do think there's a coaching and decision making portion of that team too. And then have you heard about these rumors where Effects like kind of doesn't want to be on Dallas Fuel?
Well, I know there's a picture, and I don't know if it's this matchup or the next matchup in the week. There's a picture where they go to halftime and he sits there by himself at the stage. It's like, you
can't have that. You can't have that, man.
I don't know if he feels like he's underperforming or they're underperforming me, but I know looking at his stats this week, he doesn't look like he's performing at the height he should be. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's a long distance from home, not playing with the play style that he's used to, but not performing what we kind of thought he would amount to.
Yeah, so the fuel have had issues, and with this changes now, they're trying to essentially work their way back up the ladder, right? So we have a stat here that says that the Fuel have only won 25% of their matches on hybrid variants, and those are important, right?
Right.
Like those are the ones you got to win, and that's their worst game type. So outside of that, though, AKM's performance here I really enjoyed. One thing that stuck out to me was his Soldier makes it feel like I'm watching McCree play from Pine. Like I get that same kind of oomph. And, Soldier, like when Jake plays Soldier, it doesn't really feel the same way, right?
Right, yeah, he's getting chip damage, it feels like, right?
Yeah.
Compared to ATM is getting picks off these.
Yeah, right. He's performing very well, so I hope that keeps up. And one thing that sticks out to me, and it's something that, Mickey overall is kind of, he needs to improve. I mean, he's a pro. They're all pro players. Let's make that clear. I'm not a pro player, but they're all pro players. So I'm comparing like what I see certain players do versus others, and his ultimate decision making. I wanted to see what you thought. It always feels poor to me. Like his bombs are used. I've seen him activate bombs in situations where they're resetting, right? And I'm like, that's amateurish. Like what's
Yeah, it feels like a lot of the time that he is using this bomb to just reset his mech, and we've seen other divas, especially Poco, and some of the other Korean divas. They use these bombs offensively and to get in people's faces, and we just really haven't seen any big bombs out of these, and we really just don't see a ton of picks from Mickey. Compared to some of the other divas in the league.
Yeah, especially on a character, because that's one of the benefits of Diva Winston is that you can finish off that 10-20%, right? Very easily on those characters as your DPS are kind of wearing people down. Mickey, I mean, step it up, man.
Yeah.
we need to do better. And that's one theme that I'm going to touch on later is that a lot of missed transcendences to save mechs. A lot of like too late kind of situations.
It seems like it happens all the time, right?
Yeah, and it's affecting fights. Like I'm noticing it's affecting fights a lot because if you can maintain that mech for as long as possible, that's always the goal. Then you get more benefit out of the bombs, you get more benefit out of the consistent damage because Diva doesn't reload, things like that. You're having more uptime.
Right. It feels like in comparison to Cool Matt and say Fury, where these guys are staying alive a lot longer and getting picks, and this guy, his kill death ratio is probably pretty even. He's dying as many times as he's getting kills. And as far as Diva is concerned, you want a really high kill to death ratio. You want to be killing a lot of people and dying very little.
And like you said, I'm kind of interested now that you mentioned the Seagull transitioning, because Seagull is he's an important player. He's an important Overwatch player in so much more than just the league. He's one of the faces of early Overwatch, especially on the learning side, which we've mentioned before. So he has a place. I'm just trying to wonder where that is. And I could see him coaching in the future. We'll see how this league goes.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I'll go down the runner-ups, or not the runner-ups, the honorable mentions as we call them. Yeah. We had the Los Angeles Valiant versus San Francisco Shock. That kind of went in favor of you know how that ended 3-1 in favor of the Valiant. They took Lijiang, Kings Row, and Gibraltar, and Shock took Volskaya at the beginning, which was a shock, but it worked out.
I think Shock is pretty consistent on this map one win every week. Just never winning after that. So.
Yeah. And then we move into the Los Angeles Gladiators versus the Shanghai Dragons. And the Dragons have to win one sooner or later, right?
I know whoever they beat, man, that team's got to be done, right? They just got to retire at that point. I don't know. I made the comment on the notes that this looks like in the Gladiators, a mediocre professional football team versus a dysfunctional college football team, because every time,
not even a good one.
Yeah, it's no one's on the same page, and they made a comment earlier this week that the coaches are getting blamed because the Shanghai Dragons are trying these strats and not able to do them. But man, every time they pan over these Shanghai Dragons, these guys' faces, how are they not tearing up, man? Because I'm tearing up for them. Come on. I feel so bad.
It's a Chinese resilience.
I guess so, but dude, I'd be balling up on the stage.
Could you imagine, like, if you took Dallas Fuel and put them in the situation Shanghai Dragons were in, we would get so much more juicy content.
There'd be fist fights and XQC just freaking out. I mean, XQC banned once. Could you imagine if they were 0-13 or 0-12? Jesus, it'd be terrible.
Yeah. And then, so that game wrapped up 4-0 Gladiators, taking Volskaya, Nepal, Kings Row, and Route 66. We already said we like seeing Kings Row back. It's very fun to watch.
Oh, absolutely.
I'm a fan of the map in general.
Yeah. Want to get into Thursday.
Yeah.
Our next set of matches.
Yeah, what's our main game for Thursday?
Our main game for Thursday was, I think, the second match of the night was Houston Outlaws versus Philadelphia Fusion. And this was a hell of a game, man. Oh. Insane.
I mean, the spoilers for our game of the week.
Yeah, easy game of the week.
This one was the easy one.
Yeah, dude, it looked intense. I will say that Philadelphia did get off on a shaky start and was able to capitalize and come back 3-2. But let's run down the matches real quick. Map 1, Volskaya, Houston taking this, but so we get our first appearance at Dayfly for the Philadelphia Fusion, and he. Like many others
excuse my ignorance, has he been there the whole time?
I think he has been there the whole time, just has not played.
Okay.
He's a DPS, I think he's more of a flex support DPS role.
Okay.
So they stick him on the Sombra, because I'm assuming because he has some of this flex support role background, they stick him on the Sombra. Obviously, Volskaya supports the Sombra composition, doesn't get an EMP off, and dies on the first map, or on the first point very quickly, and then on the second point very quickly without ever getting EMP off, and Houston able to capitalize on that.
Yeah, and one thing to point out, which is obviously a big deal in the current climate, is that EKO is not starting, nowhere to be found.
Yeah, how do you feel about that?
We have Shadowburn back. I feel like it's one of those cases where the fans have obviously been outspoken, where a lot of people were kind of mad that this EKO guy shows up, takes Shadowburn's position, and he does well, but still there's kind of like a seniority type feel to it, especially when you're dealing with sports, right? Like any professional sport. And Shadowburn's not bad by any means.
No. Now, great Genji player, if not one of the best Genji players in the league.
Exactly. But we mentioned it last week in our last episode where, we talked about that EQO being there is a good thing, even though it's causing some controversy, because you could see Shadowburn's play elevated. He was more aggressive. He was popping Dragon Blades more often. He was using more of his character pool to kind of show off, this is why I'm here, right? Because EQO doesn't have as large of a character pool. And that's one of the things that benefits him here, because when they flip it, man, do they flip it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because sorry.
Oh no, EKO obviously very hungry. Hasn't seen much of the league. Play in the league. He definitely. What was I getting at? He has a lot to prove, and I think that being hungry and wanting to play and get a bunch of kills. Definitely something we want. But Shadowburn has to step it up.
Yeah, and I wonder if there's any of it, the off-screen stuff where he did some interviews. EKO did some interviews where they asked him some basic questions, and he came off very, cocky / confident, however you want to look at it. But he was there to prove something. And even somebody mentioned that, so during interviews, you have a lot of these more socially awkward players, or even players from different cultures. So Zoe, being an attractive woman, usually interviews the players afterwards or picks a player to interview. They don't really make eye contact with her, right? And sometimes it's evident that there's a little bit of awkwardness there on their end. But EQO staring her down, just like as close as possible in her face, like, I'm here to do work. Like, this is a job. Like, he's there to work. He looks at this as a job. He's not here playing games. Whether he's having fun or not, he could be a sadist. We never know. But that's good to see that kind of juxtaposition. That
aggressive, not only aggressive in his interview, but aggressive in his play style as well. And I think that really did spark this second week of Philadelphia Fusion, right?
Yeah. But in the map too, Houston, man. Yeah, Jake's Bastion. We get to see Jake's Bastion.
Yep. Set up the president style hold on the firstborn in Nepal, and did catch Fusion off guard, right? So they just had no idea how to take it out. He eventually does switch off of it and switches over to the Tracer. But they do take point 1 and 2 pretty quickly. So.
And Raucus's Ana surprisingly good. I didn't know he had an Ana, to be honest.
Right, because he was more of a Zen main, right?
Yeah, he's a Zen main. And his Ana, like, there were points where between Jake's Bastion being very accurate, he's great at tracking, and then Raucus being able to. There was a play on, I think, the first control point map where the Genji's consistently trying to take out Jake, and he's just picking him off because Raucus is somehow keeping him like at full health while doing everything else, like sleeping. He's landing all the CC you need, and it's just the ground control everywhere. And those two alone, like with the Nepal maps, the commentators say, and it's very common that once you lock it down and you have a Bastion, there's so many main choke points that's very hard for a team to then flip it back once you set up.
Very difficult to push back in there. Yeah. Especially sitting behind a shield, he does so much damage to the front line that even if you go in with a shield or you try to dive him, he's doing so much damage. And the grenade with the it makes it very difficult to hop on this guy because they're putting out so much damage.
And if I had to play Bastion, you told me Muma and Cool Matt had my back, that I'm set. Because they're going to do exactly what they need to do, and then nobody's dying because Rock is just very impressive on it. I mean, listen, I'm a Jonak Ryu Jaehyung fan, but it's impressive because he has the hair, right? We got to remember he has the hair.
Yeah.
And this is my team, man. But this is where the curse kicks in. Map 3.
Yep, map 3.
So take us into it.
So we're on Hollywood.
Yeah. So map 3 is where this takes off, right? So now Houston is still playing well, but Philly just kind of flips the switch, and Carpe starts to do Carpe things. Pulse bombs, landing pulse bombs is one thing, and so Carpe is kind of similar to, what's his name? I just watched the game. Soon. He's very similar to Soon, how they use their ult. So I noticed they do this thing where they jump towards, like they do a jump and then toss towards their targets, and they usually have a higher stick rate than it seems the more just run by or flash by and stick. Right. Does that make sense what I'm saying? I mean, it's something that stood out to me. I don't know if I'm just seeing what I want to see. But they seem to have a higher stick rate than most players, or most Tracer players. But outside of that, Philly kind of just flies through that map. It's very confusing because the way you had this back and forth before with Houston and Philly, like Houston kind of drops the ball because they only need one more, right? And that's one of those things where closing out games becomes important. And in sports, you always see it where if you have the 2-0, get that third one and just wrap it up.
Like, you think the confidence is maybe a little bit too high going into map 3?
Yeah, they were feeling themselves because even after map 2, Linkser hopped up, like before halftime, Linkser hopped up out of his seat and was just getting hype. And I was like he seems like more calm players.
Oh, yeah, very somewhat emotional, but not as emotional as this. This is insane.
Yeah, they were hype. The crowd was going wild, and I was going wild because it's my team now. And then this map, additionally, a stat line is that Houston has the highest win rate on it. Or hybrid maps in general. They have an 86% win rate on hybrid maps. And we just talked about, Dallas Fuel struggling with that because that's an important map type. But here, Carpe and then EQO still nowhere to be seen, but Shadowburn is just playing at a level that every character he switches to at this point, he's playing at the level he needs to play at. And then outside that, Boombox still doing his thing. I never talk much about Boombox because he always does what he has to do.
Yeah, I think he had a lot of notoriety going into the league as being a high pick rate on Zenyatta, just getting the big picks he needed to. And you don't see it as much because you don't see a lot of focus camera-wise on the Zenyatta because it's this guy, he doesn't move very much. He's sitting there, he's discording, but he does get a lot of heads knocked off. Yeah. Pretty cool. And he gets amped up every time we see a Mercy. They're putting it on Boombox because he's hitting heads with it. Yeah.
And then, after this, it starts to, the flip is, and Fraggy's playing a lot better. Fraggy at the beginning was having some issues because they were doing a good job of splitting Fraggy and Poco off, which is weird because Fraggy usually sticks really well to his supports and DPS. But they were doing a good job of peeling him off and then peeling Poco off. Poco being more of aggressive diva anyways. But after they got back to roots and were able to kind of keep that team in a general area, you could see that flip happen, and that just starts to move on to the next match. And there's obviously a momentum switch inside the stadium as well. Because like I said, Houston was popping off before halftime, and then afterwards you have this performance by Philadelphia, flips the switch. So we move into map 4, we really see that where Houston can't even get past point 1. Yeah, Route 66. I think this was like an 8-minute match or something crazy like that.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Super quick. It's almost like, do they bleed? And Houston, showed that they do bleed, and Fusion was able to take over after map 3. I think Shadowburn hops right on the Sombra, and I had never seen him play Sombra before, and he is tearing these guys up, and it really does shake Houston up at the very beginning, and they're not able to capitalize after that.
And then speaking of him switching to that Sombra, which was put me on my back foot too, was wait, okay, that's cool. And then we get into Ilios, the next map, and he's on Widowmaker. He's literally on, I think he plays 4 or 5 different characters throughout this whole
at a top tier level too. And I didn't realize it either. He obviously a very good Genji player. But switching over to Sombra, I didn't know this guy played Sombra, and he's switching over to the Widow on map 5, just showing us 3 different characters he's really good at.
And the Widow, I think the stat line was he was 55% scoped accuracy, so he was getting the shots. Yeah. Very impressive. I mean, Philadelphia, reverse sweeps are always fun to watch. Well, it's not. I'm a Houston fan, so it's not fun in this situation. But it's cool to see that, last week we had Philadelphia show off EQO, and that was impressive, and that was kind of a momentum builder. And now we get to see them. Okay, we still have Shadowburn, but they're well put together team, and they're only getting better, right?
Yeah. This is win number 3 in a row, I think, for Philadelphia, right?
Yeah. So
win both stage 1 matches, and then win the first game of stage 1 or stage 2.
I actually have a feeling that they might go smaller with their team size. I'm not sure, and I just feel like they have such a tight fit as far as how they're working together, and it's working so well that your players like Snilio, and we got to see Dayfly now, but Sato, and you have these other players on their team that you don't really see much. And maybe they're getting their benefit in practice. We don't know what that practice looks like. Their scrimming and their in-house scrimming. So that could be a deal, right? But that's to see, right?
Right. So we had 2 other matches this week on this day, on Thursday. We had Florida Mayhem versus London Spitfire. And we kind of got, win as expected. London taking it 3-1. Florida did take the first map, which is kind of, we see these teams that we don't expect to win. They take the first map, and you're like, oh, hey, maybe they have a chance. And then London turns it around and takes the rest of the maps.
Yeah. And then we have another big one, or which was supposed to be big, right? It was New York versus Boston. What did you expect?
Well, after watching Boston in week 1, I think Boston was one of these teams that benefited a lot from Mercy. They traditionally played a dive comp, but they played a dive comp very aggressively, and they would use that res very aggressively to get back into the game. And New York's not having any of that. They're going to punish you for any of that kind of stuff. And I think Boston's still trying to try that Mercy out on a lot of these things. And we're not seeing Dreamcaster playing as much of the Genji role just because there's not a res there for him. I did think this would be competitive. New York said they would benefit the most when they did interview from the Mercy changes because they, like we had talked about before, they don't like to play Mercy. They want to play these support classes that are more damage dealing classes like Zenyatta and Ana. And dude, they tore Boston up, man. Yeah,
and that matches kind of Soul's credo too, right? Like they like to play the same way, and it shows because if you have a case where because we were talking about like Jonak, Guido, Ryu Jaehong, and how when they're playing those characters, they're getting kills just as much as their DPS are. So it's almost like you have this hybrid role, right? Like you still have the healing, and if you're oppressive enough, or if you say, okay, so one of your DPS gets 2 kills, and one of your supports gets a kill, and then your other support, like your tank gets a kill, like you're ahead, even though you're not doing the standard heal until we get a kill kind of thing, right?
Right.
And that doesn't necessarily have to be dive either, because we've seen kills where Jonak's picking off people with volleys from across the map, and that puts them at an advantage. It's a 1-person advantage. So things like that, I like that South Korean style definitely.
I mean, they're not. With a Mercy, you do benefit from a ton of healing coming through and the potential res, but she does only one thing. She heals you. The buff where she does the DPS is good on characters like Pharah and Soldier 76, and generally those roles you can play a Mercy because Mercy is able to get away from people and heal on the 76 pad. But with New York, they're just going to punish you with more DPS, and SBB is going to get in your backline. And if you're still trying to run the Mercy, he's going to take you out. Valkyrie not being as good, Zenyatta being a much more powerful Discord applying target that they can take these people out, man.
And on map 1, we got to see Libero's Hanzo, which I didn't know existed. I'm not going to feign ignorant. I mean, I did not know. And that, it seemed like it caught them off guard too, because they took that first point very easily. I think he participated in something like 80% of the kills right off the bat. And then they got the point, and he moved forward, and Jonak is just unkillable. And we mentioned last week where the points where NYXL were having issues was whenever they were able to lock Jonak down, right? He's a big deal. So
huge, yeah.
Yeah, we didn't see any of that here. He was kind of let loose, and when he's loose, he can do what he wants. And
he gets free reign. He's able to kind of get those kills and discords that he needs, right?
Yeah.
I will say that Libero does impress me in this week especially, and last week as well, compared to stage 1. He was a good Genji. He wasn't shining as much as SBB, and it's hard to shine when you got SBB
exactly
killing everybody on the other team.
Yeah,
but man, he's really obviously they're the best team. I think they're the best team. They have the best record, especially when these 2 DPS are at performing at their height. And I think Libero is really starting to step it up.
Yeah, there's a stat line where so this just tells you how good they are, right? Just go look at the standings. But NYXL, their worst game type is Assault, and that's only because they have a 7-5-1 record. So they still have a really good win record for that, and that's their worst type, right?
Yeah.
That's ridiculous. That's disheartening. Like if I was another team, like the Shanghai Dragons, and I see that, I'm just like that's such a hill to climb to try to even be compared to them. I don't know, man. It's stuff like that. I mean, there's even a case here because map 2 was a wash. They pretty much took that one with ease. And on map 3, you can just see the decline because Jonak is trying to backcap. Like when Jonak starts trying to backcap, it's at that point he's obviously confident enough where he doesn't even have to be in the fight, right?
Oh yeah, yeah. It did feel very competitive in the first 2 maps, and like you said, yeah, this is a turnaround. This feels like this is a whole different level of play, right? Yeah,
and they even started out with a double sniper, which was because they were like, okay, if you go double sniper, then you can deal with their Widow, really be oppressive with Hanzo and Widow, right? Take her out and then just move forward, and that's exactly what they do. And then once that payload moves, it doesn't stop.
Oh yeah, no, it doesn't.
Yeah, Liberal's Hanzo, man, definitely caught me off guard. I didn't know, and that's
I knew he was a good Genji, good fair player, and I've seen him on the 76. Yeah, dude, just hopping right over to the Hanzo and really, I mean, it's very intimidating too when you do play against a good Hanzo because those scatter arrows and being able to see through walls is just, man, it really does put your team at a really high advantage.
Yeah. And then you essentially have full sight, right? Because you can alternate between the Widow and the Hanzo ults. Or not the Sonic Arrow and the Widow ult.
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
So I guess one question from this whole map. So new NYXL take it 4-0. They take Hanamura, Nepal, Kings Row, and Gibraltar. And one thing I that people have talked about is Boston's comp, right? So they have a comp that they stick to the most, which is this kind of triple tank style, right? How are you liking that now that Ana's back in the mix? Because you essentially have it's like Ana, Zarya, D.Va, and Reinhardt, right?
Right.
How do you feel about that? Because the commentators make a comment, which makes sense, is that in that situation, your nano doesn't really have the effect of being used for ultimate purposes. It's more used to build ults. So you're essentially ulting a tank that doesn't have full ultimate so that they can get ultimates faster. So you can get a faster grab, so you can get a faster hammer down kind of thing. How do you feel about it? Does that make sense to you from that standpoint? Or
well, I think the triple tank strat is very good on certain points of the map, or certain maps, but I don't think it's going to be great on every map. And apart from just doing the triple tank, Boston has filled this pseudo dive comp with Dream Casper and Striker on the Genji and Tracer. But Houston or New York sees this coming. I mean, these are teams just like London and just like Seoul. They see these kind of comps coming and they kind of pinpoint what you're coming into it with, and they just are able to punish you for that because they're able to do it just better than you. And they do punish the triple tank strategy because they know how to compete against that kind of thing.
Yeah, and then there was a case where on defense, when they're going against that triple tank, that's usually when they're on defense, and Liberal switches back to Genji, and you just see him constantly have Dragon Blade because you have bigger targets. He's always getting D.Va out of mech, and by that point, he's not missing, right?
Yeah. And he does some really crazy things where he's getting multiple kills from dashes without a blade. He's not even having to use an ult, and when you're able to hold your ult and get kills anyways, man, that's even more intimidating.
Yeah.
I think just a kind of a sight line, where a little stat line, SBB goes into this map, or going into map 4, he has 52 kills and 15 deaths.
Yes. Oh.
Where Striker his counterpart is killed 34 people and died 30 times, which is insane. 52 kills and 15 deaths. That'll really set you apart. Yeah.
And he's
Libero not right behind you.
Yeah, and out of those 52 kills, it's been shown that he's really good at killing other DPS. He wins duels, and it's usually anybody can kill a back. I'm not gonna say anybody, but usually the focus is take out supports, take out the tanks if they're out of position. But he goes for the fights, man. He wins them most of the time. Like most of his, I think over 50, like 75% of his kills are other DPS players.
Oh yeah, yeah, and if he has days where he doesn't want to focus on the DPS, and I think they mention it as later in the week that sometimes he doesn't care about the DPS and he'll switch up the strategy, and that's what's so good about New York is they can switch up the strategy midweek and they're not doing the same thing. He's like, well, I don't give a shit about the DPS this week. I'm going to focus on tanks, and then the DPS are like, well, what am I doing? What am I trying to focus on? SBB? They've really thrown us for a loop, and when he's able to get constant picks after one another, it's kind of insane. How do you keep up with that kind of thing?
Yeah. So, I mean, we wrapped that one up 4-0. It didn't go in the favor. I thought it'd be more exciting. It was the last game of the day. And then we move into Friday, right? So Friday, we'll start off with our honorable mention since our last game of the day was the pick. We start off with Boston Uprising coming off the loss versus Florida Mayhem. Florida Mayhem is still struggling. They're kind of in that Shanghai Dragon range. I don't know what I know what Shanghai Dragons have planned. I don't know what the hell my Mayhem is doing.
Right. Yeah,
I think we talked about they don't have specific roles is the problem.
Yeah, specific roles and just a shortage of different player base. I mean, I know they have picked up a coach. I don't think they've picked up any. Haven't picked up any other roles besides a coach. Where Shanghai has obviously picked up some DPS classes and Gary on a tank class. Florida, really, we haven't heard much about them going into this, and still kind of struggling just to pick up any kind of leverage.
Yeah, so we get a 4-0 sweep there, taking Hanamura, Lijiang, Hollywood, Route 66, and then the follow-up game is Los Angeles Gladiators versus Seoul Dynasty, which Gladiators are a toss-up, man. I feel like they're on the verge of being a really good team. I feel like they're Philadelphia, the Philadelphia we saw pre the EQO pickup, pre our last playoff or pre-playoffs. Sorry, I feel like that's kind of where the Gladiators are getting to.
Right.
So if they can just get over that cusp, I feel like they can start giving people a run for their money.
Yeah, definitely a lot of potential in the DPS. I mean, with Surfer and Hydration, I think that there's a ton of potential there. And then picking up Fisher. I think they're just trying to figure out what they need to be doing. Obviously, with a new main tank, you've got a lot of changes that probably come with that too, right?
Yeah. But Dynasty take it 3-1, taking Hanamura, Hollywood, and Gibraltar, and Gladiators were able to squeak out that second map on Nepal. And then we get into the game that I was excited about, right? Because this is kind of Valiant. We talked about Valiant hit this high pre-playoffs, but they kind of simmer down. And now they're playing the Fuel, who's now coming off of, players being back, the players they've acquired, and they're kind of trying to prove something. So I feel like this is an even match. How'd you feel going into it?
Yeah, I thought it was pretty even, actually, going into it with how AKM was performing, how he performed last week, and even with this loss earlier in the week, I thought that still they would go into it. And they did. It was competitive, but it wasn't as competitive as I thought it would be. I thought we'd go to 5 on this one.
Yeah.
I don't know. Valiant, obviously still very good. They had a kind of a rough start last week, but, going into this, man, they looked insane, especially soon. I mean,
still have
the guy's insane on Tracer, and he really did show. Yeah,
Soon and Unko. Like, if it wasn't Soon killing you, it was Unko hitting you upside the head with some balls. But
I think Unko had a kind of a rough week last week, and he really did pick it up for this week, obviously.
Yeah, we had some Kareev on Soldier.
We haven't seen much of Kareev. We usually see agilities as kind of that off DPS role on the Genji. But man, Kareev very consistent on Soldier.
He's listed as support, right? I think he's listed as support players. I'm confused.
He's like a flex support DPS role. Yeah.
Okay.
So map 1, where we get into Hanamura, and I think Valiant. They do take the first 3 maps, and they give Fuel a little bit of win taste on Gibraltar. But so map 1 going into Hanamura.
Soon Soon had sprees of like double kills, triple kill. Sticks that they needed. It was a case where he was very oppressive and just doing what he wanted, especially on that second point. Just watching him move around, there was no point where I felt like they were forcing him to be somewhere they needed him to be. He was just doing his thing, and that with Unko in the back picking people off. It was that literally that 2 combo was what I felt like carried him. And getting back to Harry Hook, right? I mentioned earlier, his Ana is not good. I'm sorry, it's not.
Just not at the point where you can play an Overwatch League. Obviously, his other characters, Lucio, very good. His Mercy, fine, and he plays a soldier pretty well too. But he playing this character Anna, where it's very difficult and very punishing if you don't play it well, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just not showing up.
We don't even see much Anna, pass Masters, right? It just disappears.
Yeah, it's just so difficult when you have so many good dive heroes and Diva and Winston and stuff like that. You just get dove on as Anna. How do you survive?
Yeah, and I watched him many times over the course of this match die with ult and stuff. So he ended up swapping, which was the smart move, right? He didn't sit on it too long, but starting off that way, I feel like puts you on that back foot, and you don't want to be on the back foot against Valiant, right?
Right.
Because they're one of the top tier teams. They've just been struggling, and they should still be treated as such. But yeah, moving into the next map, Mickey actually shows up.
Yeah, he does.
Mickey shows up on the ball, man.
Yeah, I mean, he's a little upset with probably the performance of map 1, man. He's like, fuck it. I'm getting in there. I'm going to kill some people this time.
Yeah.
Well, you don't really see an aggressive Mickey very often either. And like I said, XUC had commented, this guy is not diving with me. What is he doing?
Yeah.
He needs to be up there with me. He's kind of off doing his own thing. He really does dive and get some kills.
Yeah, there's one play where he takes out Mercy, pops bomb, gets Diva out of mech, takes out I think Winston as well, and then kills Diva, and it's just like they solidified that map. But it's always the case of one person stepping up and one person stepping back, which in this case was AKM. So earlier in the week, AKM was doing really well on Soldier, but his Soldier here was piss poor, man. There was one ult where he switches to Winston, pops his full ult, uses it all on Winston. Winston goes monkey. He gets half monkey done, and then he dies. So all of it's gone. And it's at a point where I think at 57% on the point, and then once they flip that point, they don't get it back, right? So if you win that fight, if you use that ult, you win that fight, you're able to have probably one or two more fights, and then try to lock it out. But decisions like that to me are the ones that kind of put them on the back foot, is they need to line up.
Yeah, it's kind of a make or break situation too, right? Yeah. That's a huge ult to just use and not get much out of it.
Yeah. Outside of that, we move to map 3, right? Where it's just at this point, the Valiant have it. They have the momentum. You can see Fuel kind of breaking down. Like they're not syncing up. I mean, AKM switches to Widow. His Widow's not bad, but he's one of those Widows that has to get the headshot to get the kills, right?
Yeah.
Like I've seen Bird Ring before, where he'll shoot and then just do a quick fire, right? Like he's real good at calculating how much he needs to do. Therefore, he can go for the headshot, and if he gets it, then he goes for the body shot at low percentage, right? Stuff like that. With watching AKM, it's like he's always going for the headshot, because if he doesn't get it, he falls off.
Yeah. You're exactly right. Bird Ring does make that second shot a lot of the times that he needs to get, because he's not going for a one-shot kill. He is just going for the kill. Yeah.
But yeah, that once I saw AKM switch to Widowmaker, and even they put the camera on him, and you can even see like he looked like he was trying like really hard, like really hard,
really focused.
Yeah, he was really focused, and you kind of see like the body language was there. It was over from that point. But then moving into the last map, it was just kind of like a pity, not even a pity. The Fuel ended up pulling it out. I felt like at that point Valiant was trying some different things. The comps were kind of off. And I want to ask you something about, we started to see some more Doomfist on defense situations. How did you feel about that?
I think it's great if you're able to catch people off guard. He is able to get in there and get a one-shot kill or a combo kill.
Yeah.
But you really do need to be completely synchronized, where with, say, a Tracer or a Genji, those kind of characters can get out even if they make a mistake. Where Doomfist, you make a mistake on Doomfist, you're going to die. He's a fragile character that has 250 health, but he's not like Genji and Tracer that have these defensive abilities to get away from people. Mm-hmm. So I like seeing him. He's great against big tank compositions like Winston. He can knock him through the bubble. I don't know.
Yeah. Do you play? You don't play much Doomfist, do you?
No, I don't feel like that's my character style. I don't know. Getting in there and being aggressive. It's very difficult. Have you played him before?
Yeah, I tried, but I already talked about. I have the same issue, right? Where I'm more of a zoning type play style. So like Diva fits more my style kind of thing. He's not like she can get in and get out kind of thing, and she's a tank. So I feel more comfortable being able to do that. And I'm just now getting to the point where I'm playing more of an aggressive Diva. But yeah, his health, I feel like he came out so strong when he was released. So therefore they nerfed him and it put him in a weird position overall. So we'll see. SBB loves switching to him when he needs to.
I would definitely like to see more of him because he is an exciting character to see. Right? He gets in there. He really does dishevel the people that he gets on. It's just sometimes he is not able to get out. I think that's the biggest weakness he has is sometimes if you target this guy, he might die.
Yeah. But that wraps up Friday, and then we get into Saturday. We picked 2 games this day, but they both didn't turn out how I thought they would.
No, I think especially going into the Philadelphia-London game, I really did think Philadelphia would be a little bit more competitive. And some of the games did feel very close.
Yeah.
London Spitfire being just a top-tier team, where Philadelphia is probably just sitting at that Tier 2 kind of team.
Yeah.
And I think I had mentioned earlier, London, Seoul, and New York are these teams that practice to punish, not practice to win, but they'll practice play styles, where Philadelphia, kind of traditionally known as a dive comp team, with Poco being on the Diva and Fraggy being on the Winston, and your 2 DPS, Carpe and Shadowburn, they play dive. And London Spitfire just knows how to punish that kind of thing.
Yeah, they have it down to a science. I mean, the point where Shadowburn has 2 dud blades, like if you have 2 blades, you get 0 kills. I haven't seen that happen. Like usually at least get the one.
That's my Genji. You just ultimate and you lose track of everybody, and you're like, I don't know where I was. Look, I was trying to force out the Zenyatta ult.
Yeah,
and that's what they're like. Oh, Clay, they didn't use the Zenyatta ult.
Just keep swinging, man.
Keep
swinging.
Yeah. But that's what looked like it happened. He's pulling these blades out and he's just not connecting.
Yeah.
Right.
Do you think when you're playing Spitfire, with how EKO has been performing, do you think you throw him in there and see what happens? Because you're already the underdog kind of situation. But I feel like that aggressive style would throw them off.
I think so too. Yeah, I think that they probably prepared for more of a shadow. They saw Shadowburn earlier this week. They probably figured that Shadowburn was going to play again, and he plays more of a passive Genji. And I just love the fact that Eco is so confident going into these things. Yeah. That might have been the turnaround. Yeah. Obviously, Fraggy, the shot caller, he's the main tank. He's not what we consider the best Winston in the game.
No.
I just don't know. I did not like the performance that I saw. There was no cohesion between Fraggy and Carpe, where you saw Gesture, Gesture and Prophet really working together to get these picks, where Carpe, you just kind of look around on all these maps, and you're like, where's Carpe at? He's out there trying to get these solo kills. And that kind of thing just doesn't work against London. I mean, that works on the ladder. That works maybe on these tier 2 teams. Yeah. But London is so good at calling their supports and calling their tanks back to the fight that you're not going to get those kind of kills.
Yeah, and that ult economy is another part of it, where that's one thing that Spitfire and Excel kind of just, and Dynasty, they know how to use their ults, right? They don't waste them. I pointed out Mickey earlier as the extreme version of that, because I really see him do some stuff. I'm just like, that's basic 101. Don't pop that ult, just die with it, right? And then use it for the next fight. But you never see that mistake with these top tier teams, which is, I'm hoping that the playoffs this time go around are a little more unexpected. I mean, we did get some unexpected outcomes towards the end, getting to the playoffs.
Oh, of stage 1, yes.
Yeah, of stage 1, but I kind of don't want to see London and New York up there again, or I want something to happen where it kind of mixes things up. But seeing this kind of like seeing Philly come off such a strong 2 weeks, and then finally hitting the roadblock, which is the bosses that they play against.
Yeah, the end boss.
The end boss.
The Korean end bosses. Yeah, no joke.
It's hard to watch. But yeah, I mean, they 4-0 it, taking every map, and then we move into the next match, which is another 4-0, which was also surprising. So just to let you guys know, I guess once I decided Houston was my team, that was the end. That was the end of them being the Houston that won my heart, right? Yeah. Oh man. Yeah, why did this happen, Clay? Give me the answers.
I think it was kind of the same reason that we saw Philadelphia and London, a 4-0 where we didn't expect that. We thought it was going to be competitive. New York just looked like they're prepared for Houston, where Houston just prepares for anybody. New York just played to Houston's weakness, and I don't know, man. When Houston is trying to do the same thing, when they are trying to dive, when they're putting Jake on the Tracer compared to SBB on the Tracer, you're just not. You can't play the same game, man. The reason Houston did so well in Stage 1 is because they were playing a different game, right? They were playing Junkrat. They were playing Linkser on Soldier. You just thought, you saw compositions that weren't very traditional. And here they are. They're trying to put Linkser on the Genji and Jake on the Tracer. Jake's not a good, he's not as good as SBB as Tracer, and Linkser's not going to be as good as who's New
It was
York's.
super weird. It was like when AKM switched to Widowmaker, right? It's one of those things where it's like this. We know he plays the character, but we know why he's here. We're here for that Soldier, and with Jake it's the same thing. Like Jake Ratter Soldier. Like when I saw him on Tracer, I knew there was a problem, and I wonder if it stems from us seeing more Clockwork lately.
Yeah, I think they do need a Tracer. You're right.
Yeah, and
they do bringing Clockwork out. They need somebody to play Tracer.
Yeah. The DPS here was because, like you've mentioned, Raucus and Boink were kind of on point when it came to healing. And like I said, I like Raucus's Ana. It was very surprising, but it's useless if your two DPS are kind of
a little lackluster.
Yeah. Do you think even if you need a Tracer, right? If it's not going well, do you keep pushing through or do you have them switch? Like if you were the coach.
No, I like seeing these guys do dysfunctional things. And when you're on Junkrat and you're trying different characters, that's what, New York's not planning for that. They're trying to compete against a team that they have practiced for all week. They are probably used to Houston, Jake switching off of Junkrat a little bit more often, Junkrat being a little bit less powerful. And Jake tries to force this Tracer map after map, and he's not competing on the same level SPB is. Which is kind of sad because Muma and Cool Matt are killing it on the tank rolls.
Yeah.
Killing it. But when you're down a player or two on the DPS, it's really hard to capitalize.
Yeah. All right, Houston, step it up. Let's get back to it.
I will say that, Linkser, when he plays Soldier, it really does shine. But when he hops over to these other characters like Genji, just not on the top tier.
Yeah, and that's part of the problem is, Linkser and Jake both share a common character that they're both
Soldier. Yeah. And they both play Tracer, too.
Yeah.
That's why I think if we see more of Linkser on the McCree, which is a more of a disruptive role, and Junkrat, or Jake on the Junkrat, these are disruptive roles to the traditional dive stuff, and they will mess up SBB in the backline. And SBB really does shine on these 4 maps.
Yeah. So, we have another 4-0 here. And then we move into our final match, which is Shanghai Dragons versus San Francisco Shock, which I'm not sure anybody watched because it was late at night. Or it was late for a Saturday. They started this Saturday started later than usual.
Yeah.
Didn't start at the normal 2:00 time. But yeah, I mean, Shanghai's 0-14, man. I don't.
Yeah, can I go to a bar or can I watch Shanghai lose another match? I have better ways to spend my Saturday night. I'm sorry, Shanghai. I want you to win so bad.
I want everybody to get participation awards. Everybody's a winner.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I had some questions for you that kind of thought up. One of them was we had a new character come out.
Yeah.
Over this week, Brigitte, right? Is that correct?
I think it's so it's Brigitte. Brigitte.
Okay. Brigitte.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. Brigitte. That's
Is
it.
it Brigitte?
Yes.
I don't know if I'm 100% on board. But what do you think? What do you think about her? I see a lot of supports coming out and talking, mentioning that they think that her kit is too expansive and it actually pulls away from needing any actual skill, or it doesn't really have a high skill ceiling because her having the abilities and using the abilities on essentially a cycle allows you to have that level of performance you need for her to kind of abuse the meta at the moment.
Yeah, well, I think she is. First off, she is very fun. She is a very fun character to play. She's got a lot of different things going on. She obviously has a heal that does a ton of healing. I think it's up to 150.
Yeah.
And gives an armor pack.
Yeah.
On like a 5 to 6 second cooldown. She has a shield like Reinhardt. She kind of feels like a mold between Reinhardt and Torbjorn. Obviously, they're her mentors and her father.
Yeah.
She has a shield, so she does protect herself pretty well. She has a shield bash that gets in people's face. And I think these pros, a lot of them, they don't want to see Tracer go away. They don't want to see Genji go away. They like diving people. I think Brigitte might actually stop a little bit of that. Because she does have a flail that knocks people back, and she does have a charge-esque thing like Reinhardt does that will disrupt that kind of thing. I just don't know what kind of role she will fill as far as a meta is concerned.
Yeah.
Are you playing her with 2 supports? Because she can't support by herself.
No.
She does have a heal, but it's a 6 second cooldown. She does a lot of healing when she has it up, just not enough, I don't think, to keep a team alive.
Yeah, and she kind of breaks the standard line of execution, right? You have your tanks in the front, you have your supports in the back, you have your DPS kind of in the middle or moving around. So if you have her as one of the supports, but she needs to be on the front line to use all her abilities, it's kind of, too much to ask a person to turn around, heal, turn back around, tank, turn around, heal. It doesn't really fit into how you should be progressing as a unit. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do with her.
She is very fun, though.
Yeah.
If you get a chance to hop on the PTR,
I need to.
Fun.
I'm hype, as a support player. But yeah, my last question was going to be, I was kind of thinking about the Overwatch League. I've seen a lot of comments about people flying from Australia to go to Los Angeles for like 5 days just so they can catch a match. I went to a buddy's birthday the other day, and he's more of a casual player on console, but he's gonna fly out there, go to Vegas, and then stop by and watch a match. Like you have people now wanting to go see this thing. So I was gonna ask, how do you think they're gonna handle the future iterations of this? Are they gonna stay in LA? Are they gonna do like a roaming circus type situation, or are they gonna build different venues in different places?
Yeah, from what I understand, the plan is Season 2, they split these teams up, and they will play in their city. I don't think it makes it into Season 2. I think this is more of a Season 3 thing, where they start to actually play in the cities, because I just don't think we have enough teams. I mean, think about it. If Seoul and London, if they're playing in Seoul and London, how are they going to compete against anybody? We're going to obviously have a big ping difference. I think that's something that we'll see in Season 3. We probably get a couple more teams between here and now, and then we break it off into more like we see in the NBA and the NFL, where you're playing in divisions.
Yeah. Okay.
So,
yeah, that could be cool. I like the roaming circus idea. I don't know if it was mentioned. It's just
that would be very cool. That would be awesome.
Yeah, because you essentially have a case where, okay, this season, or even if you did half seasons, right? So it's obviously becoming popular. Like, people are going to LA to watch this, and like, say if you did Atlanta for half a season, and then the next half you did in New York. Like, that's a thing that people can plan around. That's a case where you can keep your teams localized. You can keep them in houses, get them set up. You're keeping it fun for them moving around. You're keeping it fun for people to have things to go to. It's almost like concerts. Like when a tour comes to town, you get in when you can get in because you don't know when they're coming back, right?
Right. Yeah.
And then an excuse to travel to all the cool cities, in the States, and do half a season in London and give people an excuse to go overseas, or give people.
Oh, that'd be awesome. Yeah, absolutely.
Give the Eastern side more access to it. More diversity, right? And especially it's easier to get around in Europe, right? So things like that. I feel like there's a lot of opportunity, and you're seeing the popularity as someone who owns Activision stock. You're seeing it there. Like the money is coming in, the views are coming in. It's great to see, right? I'm interested to see what they decide on.
Yeah. I think coming up, especially just adding teams and the big changes to Season 2. That's kind of exciting to, kind of going forward. What do we see?
Yeah. So let's wrap it up. They can find us places now. We have stuff, right?
Yeah. We do have stuff.
So we still have our Gmail. You can get us a Gmail at thebirdwatcherspodcast@gmail.com. Email us in questions, opinions. You can call us out on anything we get wrong. This is a long podcast. It's hard. Like the stats, Blizzard doesn't provide stats for us, so we're kind of grabbing this stuff from the videos, from what we're hearing, reading articles. So if you have anything to add, feel free. We want both positive and negative comments. That builds character. You can find us we're on Reddit. hanging around, trying to be active. We're the Bird Watchers podcast on Reddit as well. And then on Twitter, you can follow us, tweet at us, send us some cool stuff at the Bird Watchers. And Watchers is spelled WATCH3RS. Yeah, and that covers us for that. You can still hear us on SoundCloud, iTunes. Did we get accepted on iTunes yet?
We are accepted on iTunes. So you can find us on, if you just search for Overwatch League Podcast or just the Bird Watchers on iTunes, you'll be able to find us.
Okay, awesome. We're going to keep trying to push it to more platforms. There's some other ones we got to submit to see if they're going to pick us up. But besides that, I think this was a long one, man. We had some weeks where there were two games per week or per day that we kind of wanted to catch.
Yeah.
So I don't know. We might have to cut it back a bit.
We'll see. Going into week 3, we'll probably have some big differences in records and stuff like that. So that might narrow down the big teams from the not so good teams.
Yeah. So we'll keep on grinding. Thanks for listening, everybody. Take it easy.
See you next week.